Hello guys. Hope you all can hear me, right? Hi guys, hi. Just confirm me that you all can hear me. Hi, okay guys. So good afternoon to everyone. Okay, here we have our guest. Hello.
Hi, Manas.
Hi Nitali. So ma'am, how are you before starting?
Doing I'm doing good. How are you?
Fine ma'am. Uh, so
You can
ma'am,
call me you can call me Natali. You don't have to call me ma'am. I'm completely okay with it.
is it okay? Okay Nitali, so shall we start? Shall we get into a topic?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So just give us a brief introduction. Hope everyone knows you. Uh,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure nobody knows me, but that's fine.
yeah. No. So, ma'am, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Natali Devinka. I'm a filmmaker, a writer, and a mental health advocate. Yeah, so I've been advocating for, um, mental health because I published a book in 2017. Yeah, about
Yes,
my experiences with mental health and mental illnesses. So yeah, that's how I started advocating for mental health. Yeah.
nice. So, Natali, what inspired you to become a mental health advocate?
I wouldn't say I was inspired. What really happened was in 2017, I published my book, Naked and Exposed. It was not meant to be a book. It was a time where I had a very severe relapse, where I was seeing hallucinations. I was severely depressed. I was self isolating myself. So, what I did was I kind of started writing what I felt. I sort of kept a journal, which I don't do. It wasn't a journal, but it was a collection of pictures and things that I've written. And I remember I showed this to my sister, and it was her idea that I should, publish this as a book. There onwards, I published it, and when I did, a lot of people reached out to me. That's when I actually felt the importance of, starting up a conversation, advocating it and sharing your experience, because it has really helped a lot of people. And and one thing before we start the whole thing, I just want to tell you, we should also do this in Sinhalese and Tamil, because I
Of
feel
course.
like with English you will only reach a very limited audience. But I think if we go on with these conversations in Sinhala and Tamil, I think we'll be able to
Yeah,
reach a
sure.
bigger audience. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sure. I'm okay with it. So, Natali, let's start from where you started. So, mm,
Yeah.
let's start from a life lesson you learned. What life lesson would you like to share with our viewers?
Life lessons. I don't think I'm done with learning my lessons. I think I'm still
Okay.
learning my lessons, and I'll probably, continue to learn my lessons. But of course, the most important lesson I've learned so far is acceptance. Because for those of you who don't know, I have been diagnosed with depression and obsessive compulsive disorder, and I'm currently on medication for that as well. But
Okay.
I've been suffering from depression and hallucinations ever since I was like 7 years old. But at that age, you really don't know what you're going through. You wouldn't be able to describe what a hallucination is. And, I kind of let that grow up, sort of grew up with all those, confusion and hallucinations. But when I was 18, I attempted suicide. And there onwards, I attempted 9 to 10 times. And that's when I felt that that's when I knew that something's wrong. Like I have absolutely given up on breathing, and I honestly didn't want to do anything. And I had a very supportive family. My family is very supportive. I have a very supportive husband, but nothing was enough for me. And that is when we actually, I mean, up until I was 24, I have not actually sought out for any kind of help. So I think the important thing is that once I started accepting my condition, and once I started accepting myself for who I am, it's a process. I'm not completely there yet, I'm not gonna lie, but I keep on trying, and acceptance has taken me a very, very, very long way. So most important life lesson is acceptance and learning to breathe a little more comfortably. Yeah. I think
Of
everyone should
course,
try that.
of course. So, Netali, as you said in one of your interviews, you said that mental stress is just a social stigma, and it's like a physical illness. It's an illness which causes chemical imbalance to the brain. So, if
Yes.
we can give, as you said, if we can give more attention to it, it can be completely cured. So,
Yeah.
how did you face
Yeah.
your struggles? This can be an
Okay.
advice for others.
Okay. Another thing that I don't do is I don't hand out advice, because I'm someone who's been diagnosed with a disorder myself. I'm currently on medication. So I usually don't. A lot of people have reached out to me for advice when I go for forums, or when I wrote my book. A lot of people reached out. And one thing I always tell them is that I don't hand out advice, but I will tell them how I cope with it, which might work for them, which might not work for them. So back to your question. What was your question? I'm sorry.
How did you face your stressful situations? How did you manage
Okay.
those times?
Okay. First of all, before we start on anything, you mentioned about social stigma as well. One thing I have to tell you is that it's not that our people don't understand. We live in a generation where information is easily accessible, right? අපි ඉන්න මේ generation එක ඇවිල්ලා ඕන කෙනෙක්ට mobile phone එකෙන් laptop එකෙන් මොකෙන් හරි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. They can actually check about mental health, right?
Yeah,
And pretty much everyone knows what depression is. But
of course.
some people make the choice not to, sort of, how do I put it? They make the choice not to understand because it's easy for them. Biggest example is when usually, like when a celebrity commits suicide, when we lose a celebrity to suicide, what happens is everybody is really involved about it. You see multiple social media posts about them, but those very people who post this stuff, they fail to understand that probably their friend or their sister or their brother or one of their family members are going through this. So what happens is, if it's someone else's story, you're really inspired. But if it's something to do with your own family or yourself, it becomes a bit inconvenient. It becomes too messy. So you try to distance yourself from it. So it's not that people don't understand. It's not that people are clueless. It's just they're not willing to understand. They just don't want their lives to be more complicated by trying to understand another person. Yeah. And with myself, I think I have to give credit to my husband and my family. If not for them, I don't think I would have survived. Each time something happened, or each time I attempted suicide, I had someone near me, either my family members or I had my husband near me. So, to get through this, we have to get together as a community. If not, we will never come out of this. The unfortunate thing is, a lot of people, whenever we tell someone, I don't feel good, I feel depressed, or whenever we, sort of share how we feel, the minute we say that, someone would say, why don't you, just, do some yoga? You have to think positively. It's all in your head. Don't worry about it. Sleep off it. You'll be fine. That's the kind of advice we get, right?
Yeah,
But, nobody's willing to kind of work through it with you, but they'll ask you to, think positive. For me, is the worst thing that was ever invented in this era. Like, I hate when people say, you got to think positive. What do you mean think positive? Are you asking me to forget whatever I feel, sweep it right under the rug, and just smile about? I don't get that think positive idea. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So what you need to tell people is to validate each other, to validate how they feel. People should be able to freely express how they feel, because then as a community we also have the responsibility to sort of validate what they feel. So yeah, I think if we are willing to listen, we are willing to speak to each other, if we are willing to validate how we feel, I think we can, not just me, I think all of us, it will be a lot easier for us to come out of this.
Yes, Netali. As you said, social stress is something which now everyone is facing. I don't
Yeah.
think someone is stress free. So, speaking about stress, different people have different type of stress that can be caused on different, due to ages, due to some situations, family backgrounds.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to stress, what do you think? How should we uh, move on without falling back from it?
Okay. So look, when I get stressed out, I'm the worst possible person on earth. I go nuts. Okay, that's the that's the truth. I go nuts. I don't know how to handle myself, but I do have people who understand me and who actually walk through this with me. I mean, my cousins are joining in from US. Everybody is joining in. My family. I just want to say hi to everyone who has joined in the conversation. Thank you so much for being a part of this. But yeah, back to the question. Sometimes people, when you say that you're not feeling well, or when you say you're feeling depressed, or you say you have obsessive thoughts, the minute you say that, people sort of think that you have sort of created this scenario in your head. Your stress is something that you have created in your head. But the truth is, we can't tell anyone how to handle stress, because each of us have different levels of emotional intelligence, and different levels of sensitivity, different levels of we're all different to each other. So what works for me might not work for them. But
Of course.
one thing we can all do, anybody should do this, is just breathe through the chaos. When you're stressed, just take 5 minutes of it and just make sure that you give yourself some space to breathe. It's
Yes,
5
Nitali.
minutes to breathe. And if you just keep on piling with the stress, you're anyone, you don't necessarily have to have a mental disorder to actually go through stress. Stress is a common factor. It doesn't only derive from mental illnesses. So yeah, working through stress is just giving you, and another thing that's really important is you need to do something that makes you happy. You need to sort of allocate a time of your day to do something that you like. What I do is I love painting. I've taken up painting, and that really works on my anxiety. And since I've suffered from depression ever since I was a kid, now I've been living with this for almost 25 years. It's I've begun to sort of direct all my negative energy. I'm full of negative energy, full of negative thoughts. I sometimes wake up suicidal for no reason. And also, people need to understand, sometimes you don't need to give a reason. A lot of things. I've been bullied all my life. A lot of people have told me, you're privileged, you have a house, you have a good family, this and that, why are you depressed? Privilege has nothing to do with mental health. You can be the richest person on earth, you can be so financially stable, you might have the most beautiful house, the most beautiful life partner, best family, but still you can fall down. And that, I think, a lot of people need to sort of understand, because
I agree with you.
suicide, yeah, when they lose their life to suicide, those very people are privileged. People love them, people have accepted them all over the world. They are not happy, and it's not their fault, it's only normal. So people need to understand, irrespective of our social status, financial status, whatever it is, you and I both, and every one of us, there can be a time where we might just lose ourselves and have a really bad phase and even be suicidal for no reason. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, it was a nice answer.
Thank you.
And so you have been in situation where you tried to attempt suicide, as you said. So thanks to your family and your husband, we still have a great person like you and a chance like this to speak with you. So I would like
Thank
to
you so much.
thank them for that. So just coming to speak about you, what we want from you, ma'am, Nithali, is that we want the whole experience you got in this session. We want to grab the maximum from you and for our viewers. So just describe yourself in one word. What word would you give to yourself?
Describe myself in one word?
Yes.
To tell you the truth, that's the most impossible thing on earth. I think I am a lot of things. I think I have multiple personality states. I think, I can be someone in the morning, the next second another person. So I have a lot of multiple personality states. I'm really cuckoo in that sense. So if I am a million things, so I can't describe myself in one word. You'll probably need a lot of words for that.
You are a million things. That's the word.
Yeah, I am a million things.
So, ma'am, some facts about you. I mean, your strengths, weaknesses.
Okay. I don't focus much on strengths and weaknesses. I just focus mostly on, because it's easier for someone like me not to focus mainly on my strengths and weaknesses, because that can really frustrate you, because, you would be setting targets or objectives that are probably not, even achievable. So what I usually do is, I don't focus much on it, but, I'm the most insecure person I know. I'm just going to be honest with you. Ever since I was a kid, because of bullying partly, people made me believe that, that I don't belong to my family. I had 3 beautiful sisters. So the constant comment I would get from people is, you have 3 beautiful sisters. Are you sure you're not adopted? They'd bully me about my skin color. They'd bully me about, I'm a very petite, I'm not even 5 feet. I'm 4'11". So people, I'm a very petite person. So a lot of people bullied me for that as well. And that bullying was some serious bullying, some serious body shaming that I had to go through. And I was only maybe about 13 or 14 when I actually thought of jumping off my school's corridor, because someone kept on bullying me. And it was mental, as much as physical abuse, mental abuse is so scarring. It can stay with you for the rest of your life. Things may be going right, but right now I am the most insecure person. I'm so insecure about how I look. I'm so insecure about how I talk. And right now, when I end this conversation, I'll probably keep the phone and I'll be like, okay, did I sound dumb? Did I sound stupid?
No,
a
I
million
don't
things
think you
would
have to
run
think
in.
that.
Yeah,
We
I
are
mean,
so
that's what I'm.
inspired by.
No,
We are
thank you,
personally
but
so inspired.
thank you so much. But how do you manage the voices in your head? Malicious read. Someone's asking how you manage the voices in your head. As someone who has can I answer that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So as someone who has a lot of voices in my head, millions of it, most of the voices are horrible voices. They ask me to do a lot of negative things, even though I have a supportive family, sometimes I wake up and I have these voices asking me to inflict pain onto my family members. I have been very, very murderous at times. Then I have actual auditory hallucinations. So what I do is, I think malicious read is referring to a different kind of voices in our head, where probably like myself, where I keep telling myself, you're not good enough, you don't look good enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. So those kind of voices, I think there are also thoughts as well. These voices you refer to, they are your thoughts, and thoughts cannot be controlled. This I learned it the hard way. And my doctor always advises me about this as well, that not to get indulged in your thoughts. The more you think about, why do I feel this, why do I think this, is this true, is this not true, don't. Those questions are too complicated. Dance is bound to be complicated as well. So don't ask yourself complicating questions and just get frustrated and get annoyed at you probably wouldn't even understand yourself, and it's not important. So what you can do is you can let these voices come, say whatever they want, and let them go. Trust me, it helps. I know sometimes people can tell you things and you will be like, is she crazy? Is she asking me to let my thoughts go? Is she asking me to just forget about it? Because it's not easy as you say, right? So when you get these voices, when you get these thoughts, you should just let them be, let them do whatever they want, and then you just let it go, and then you'll realize that okay, this was here with me for a while and it's gone. So what we try to do is, the minute we hear the voices and thoughts, we try to act upon it. We can never control our thoughts, but we can always control our actions. Just because I have these voices in my head asking me to kill my whole family doesn't mean I'm going to do it. You get it? That's because I can control my actions. But if you have come to a point where you can't control your actions and you feel like thoughts are overtaking, like taking over yourself, what you can do is you can definitely just get professional help. Go to a doctor you trust, a counselor you trust, a family member, whoever. Just speak out. If you feel something is beyond your control, if you feel like you can't handle it alone, the answer is that you go and speak to someone you trust. Trustworthy person who will give you the right kind of support, right kind of emotional support, and will take you to a mental health expert or a doctor or a psychiatrist, counselor, whoever.
Okay. Hope his question has been answered.
Yeah.
So, to a person like you, I mean, you were so depressed, going to the level up to suicide, and today for us, you are being such a successful woman in our society. So
Thank
I
you.
would like to speak more about the book which you wrote, Naked and Exposed.
Okay.
So
Is
tell
there
us about
specific? Yeah.
how do you got those informations? What made you write things like that?
Okay. So for me, before I start on about the book, when you said that I'm one of the most successful people, the truth is, for me, success is not earning lots of money. I'm broke as hell. Success is not, everybody knowing my name. For me, success is actually being able to breathe comfortably. And I think I have sort of begin to do that. So that's my success. And that should be everyone's success, that you're able to breathe comfortably and just live a simple life. And with my book, what happened was, I was on very heavy antipsychotics back then. This was in 2017. Because I had very, very severe hallucinations. And that was also right after a suicide attempt where I overdosed myself with a lot of medication. And like I said, information, it's my story, I didn't take information from anywhere. I mean, I just wrote what I felt. So it's more like a journal, or more like a memo, where you can actually, when you read it, it's very short. It's got a lot of visual interpretations as well. So it's something that I've written. It's a very raw, genuine book about how I felt at the time. I feel a lot different now, but this was in 2017, so it's bits and pieces of my crazy self back in 2017. Not that anything has changed in terms of crazy, but yeah, that's what it is.
What was your main aim on writing that book? To reach which type of people, or to create an impact in the society?
Yeah. Okay. To tell you the truth, that, like I said, that was a journal that I wrote. It wasn't meant to be a book. But when my sister actually gave me the idea to publish a book, I was very hesitant, because it was a very personal, it's my personal story. And up to that point, nobody knew I was actually going through all this. Nobody, like my friends had no idea, but my family, of course, knew. But other than that, nobody else had an idea of my life, because I would, even if I go to school, or even if I go to work, even if I got bullied severely both at work and school, I would just keep a smile. I don't know what that is. We have this little image that we build up in our in our head, thinking we shouldn't let others know that we are going through something bad. We should let people know that we are doing okay. That's a big mistake that all of us do. I mean, starting with kids, we tell kids, don't tell this to anyone, you shouldn't tell this to your school friends, you make sure you don't tell them. So we just go to school and put on this mask and act like everything's okay, but we might be just trying to sleep, which was my childhood, you know. It's a made up thing. It's not nothing to do with your parents as well. It has been, you know, passed on to generations to kind of hide your divorce, hide your
That was
problems. Yeah, even if your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend is having an affair, don't tell anyone. Don't tell you're getting a divorce. Try to work through it. You know, it's a crazy world where people ask you to work through chaos, and it's not necessary, right? You don't have to work through anything. You don't have to hide yourself. I think people should be unapologetically themselves and not really, you know, it doesn't matter what others think. Whether you do the right thing or whether you do the wrong thing, people are going to think about you. It's the way they are going to perceive you, right? Whatever you do, it's not going to change. So I think something that people should do is just be themselves. And, you know, I mean, I saw you had Sharon and you had Shanti on the show, and Sharon is someone who's always advocating for kindness, and I think that's our number one step. We should just be kind. You know, it's completely, absolutely free. It doesn't take up much of your energy. So yeah.
yes, ma'am. So Nitali, what does your family think about your writing? How
About
do
my
they?
writing. Okay, so my family is a bunch of liars because all of them told me that it's really good, but I hate it. Now I don't want to read my book now. That's the truth. Now when I open my book, I think, oh my God, what kind of writing have I? You know, I self-criticize so much. Then again, I think that goes back to my insecurity. So yeah, they absolutely love me for who I am. They let me be crazy. They let me, you know, be myself, which I think is really important for anyone, that someone lets them be themselves. And yeah, I think that that's what it is.
I'm personally waiting to get a book and read it, but the problem
Of
is I'm
course,
weak in Sinhala.
your no, my
What
book is
about
actually in English.
English?
uh, yeah, it's in English, but I want to actually do a Sinhalese book as well, because I keep saying this at every forum. If you can as well, I saw your page and I think it's fantastic that you guys have this page where you have given people tasks to do. I saw you have to, one day you have to focus on planting, then another day, you know, just take a walk, talk to your friend, whatever. You guys have set tasks like that, and I think that's fantastic. And if someone actually is going through something, and if someone's, you know, actually going to look at your page, I think you have some solid you know, advice and solid objectives there, where you actually ask, you know, planting is actually really good, you know, because, you know, with my OCD, with my obsessive compulsive disorder, nothing is good because I get obsessed with it. If it's planting, I probably want to have a forest in my house. If it's painting, I probably want to be like Picasso. So, you know, I'm crazy like that. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely love your page, and I think you guys are doing such a great job. But if you can,
Thank you very
please
much, ma'am.
also if you can also please conduct these conversations in Sinhala and Tamil, because it's important. And if anyone who didn't understand our conversation so far, කවුරු හරි මේ conversation එක බලන් ඉඳලා තේරුන්නේ නැති කවුරු හරි ඉන්නවා නම් මම කියන්න කැමතියි. මේ වෙලාවේ depression කියන්නේ විෂාදය. depression විතරක් නෙමෙයි, මානසික රෝගවල තියෙන තව ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. schizophrenia කියලා තියෙනවා, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. මම එක නම් වශයෙන් එක මොකක්ද කියන එක නෙමෙයි වැදගත් වෙන්නේ අපිට දැනෙන දේ අපි කාත් එක්ක හරි අනිවාර්යෙන් බෙදා ගන්න ඕනේ. මම දන්නවා අපිට පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳන් ගොඩක් අය කියලා තියෙන මේ කාටවත් කියන්න එපා, මේකවා යාළුවන්ට ගිහලා කියන්න එපා, කාත් එක්කවත් කතා කරන්න එපා කියලා. ඒ වගේ අපිට නිකන් මේක හංගන් ඉන්න, අපිට දැනෙන දේ හංගන් ඉන්න ගොඩක් අපි පුරුදු කරලා තියෙනවා ජෙනරේෂන්ස් වලට. but I think අපි දැන් ඉන්න ජෙනරේෂන් එකේ මේ ඉන්ටර්නෙට් වලටයි පොත් වලටයි ෆිල්ම්ස් වල හැම තැනම මේ ડિප්‍රෙෂන් ගැන කතා කරනවා. ගොඩක් ජනප්‍රිය තරු ලෝවට ඒගොල්ලන් සිය දිවිහානි කරගෙන තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි දන්නවා මේක අපි නොදන්න දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. අපි දන්නේ වගේ රංගපෑමක් කරන්නේ. මොකද ඒක අපිට ලේසි හින්දා. අපි දන්නවා කියලා දැනගත්ත ගමන් අපිට කාට හරි උදව් වෙන නිසා, අපිට ඒක කරදරයක් වගේ නිසා අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දන්නේ වගේ ඉන්නවා. ඒක මොකක්ද අපි අහලා නැහැ වගේ ඉන්නවා. but ඇත්ත ඇවිල්ලා අපි හැමෝම මේක ගැන දන්නවා. ඒක නිසා මං හිතන්නේ අපේ රටේ සහ ලෝකේ දැන් මේ වෙලාවේ මානසික රෝග වලින් පැන ප්‍රතිශතය වැඩි. මොකද COVID-19 එකත් එක්ක ගොඩක් අය දැන් රස්සා නැති වෙලා තියෙනවා, සමහරුන්ගේ salaries cut වෙලා තියෙනවා, සමහර businesses කරපු අයට වහන්න වෙලා තියෙනවා, සමහරුන්ගේ family members ලා නැති වුණා, සමහරුන්ට families එක ඉන්න බැරි වෙලා තියෙනවා. And the worst is lockdown ඉන්න කාලේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට සමහර විට පවුලේ ඉන්න family members ලා abusive වෙන්න පුළුවන්, and they are stuck at home with those families. So මේ කියන මේ කාලය ඇවිල්ලා අපි හැමෝම මානසිකව ඇත්තටම හරි fragile, හරි we are all sensitive. We're very sensitive. It's a time where everyone's feeling very vulnerable. So ඒකින්ද ඔබට දැනෙනවා නම් යම් කිසි විදියකින් ඒක අර you know, with mental health you should never put it on a scale and say he has it worse, yours is not that, you know, not that worse. So අපි අර කවදාකවත් එක්කෙනෙක් දිහා බලන්න කියන්න එපා. ඔයාට මේක මේ එච්චර ඔළුවේ දාගන්න එපා. එච්චර ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙමෙයිනේ. මේ ඔයාට වඩා ගොඩක් ප්‍රශ්න තියෙන මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා. කන්න බොන්න නැති මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ කියලා. එහෙම කාගේවත් experiences, කාගේවත් feelings ඒගොල්ලන්ට දැනෙන දේවල් කවදාකවත් මේ කාටද වැඩියෙන් තියෙන්නේ කියන ඔය සංසන්දනය කරන්න යන්න එපා. මේ බලන් ඉන්න කවුරු හරි කාට හරි මොන හරි දැනෙනවා නම් mental health expert කෙනෙක්ට හරි psychiatrist කෙනෙක්ට හරි counselor කෙනෙක්ට හරි නැත්නම් තමන් විශ්වාස කරන කාට හරි අනිවාර්යෙන් කතා කරන්න. අපිට මේකෙන් ගැලවෙන්න පුළුවන් පළවෙනිම. ඒ කියන්නේ මම කාටවත් පොරොන්දු වෙන්නේ නැහැ අපිට මේ මානසික රෝග වලින් සම්පූර්ණයෙන් ගැලවෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒක මම දකින්න හැටියට මිත්‍යාවක්. ඒක බොරුවක්. එහෙම මිනිස්සු අපිට කියනවා you'll be okay one day. But for me it was never okay. මම කාලෙන් කාලෙට relapse වුණා. මට කාලෙන් කාලෙට දේවල් ආවා. මම අදටත් depression වලටයි OCD වලටයි medicine ගන්නවා, medication ගන්නවා උදේටයි රැටයි. ඉතින් that's okay. මම ඒක accept කරලා තියෙන්නේ, මම ඒක බාර අරගෙන තියෙන්නේ මගේ ජීවිතයේ කොටසක් කියලා. ඒක නිසා ඔබත් මේ වෙලාවේ එහෙම මොකක් හරි එකකින් මොන හරි confusion එකකින් හරි ඉන්නවා නම් අපිට මේකෙන් එළියට එන්න නැත්තම් ජීවිතය ලේසි කරගන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ජීවත් වෙන්න ලේසි කරගන්න පුළුවන් පළවෙනි දේ තමයි හොඳින් හුස්මක් අරගෙන මේක බාර අරගෙන පොඩ්ඩ මේකත් එක්ක අපි ගනුදෙනු කරන්න. So that's I just want to say that out. If anyone's suffering, please reach out.
Thank you, Netali. Thank you, Netali. On behalf of the Single Understanding viewers, I'll thank you for the message. Hope it reaches everyone.
Thank you. So I wish I can say this in yeah.
No, this okay.
I wish I can say this in Tamil as well, but not there yet.
Hope we'll get someone to translate and we'll post it.
Yes, please do.
So Netali, above being a writer and a mental health advocate, we know that you are a filmmaker too.
Yeah.
Let's go into that also. So what made you interest in filmmaking? What gave you the interest in film?
Okay. My father's a filmmaker, and my whole family, they're all artists. From my sisters to my mom, our house is like a little asylum where everyone's like eccentric artists. Everyone's crazy in our house. Like, you know, we are like bunch of birds who flew out of the cuckoo's nest. So so we have that in our genes. We have that creative gene in us. But and also my parents, they let us watch the best films ever since we were kids. We had access to books, good music. Even if we didn't have access to food, my parents made sure that we have access to good music and good films. So that's something we have. That's something we have grown up with. But yeah, filmmaking is never going to be a career of mine. It's always my passion. It's my favorite form of storytelling. I think it's the best.
Awesome.
And I actually directed my first music video when I was 19 or 20, wow. I'm not sure. So yeah, I was just out of school. My husband is a musician, so I directed pretty much all of his music videos. And yeah, I actually started on my first film project, but that actually got a bit, you know, I'm taking a break from it because of COVID-19, because, you know, it's a feature film documentary. So right now it's not safe to go out there and continue with it, but I have started a bit on my post-production just to get the first look. Yeah, so filmmaking naturally came to me and I love it.
I personally went to your YouTube channel and I enjoyed and loved all your music very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So if you were to choose between writing, filmmaking, and being a mental health advocate, what would you choose?
Okay. Mental health advocating is not a choice that I've made. It just came to me, right? It naturally came to me when I published my book. It's something that I really wanted to do. And when advocating, I don't advise, I don't hand over professional expert advice. My form of advocating is telling people, sharing my experiences as much as I can. Sometimes I go silent, which I have been all these days, because I was also going through a very, very tough phase, and my medication was changed, so I feel a bit better now. And when you guys actually wrote to me, I was at the doctor's actually, and I was on second thought that I'm actually going to do this or not. But I went through your page and I thought I should do this, and I'm glad I did it. Sometimes you're made to believe that you can't, that you're not in the right position to do it. But the truth
Thank
is,
you
if
very
you
much.
just push that a little and just go ahead and do it, sometimes it can end up making you feel better. But don't do anything that makes you unhappy. But like you said, I'll choose filmmaking, but I'll always be a mental health advocate, making my films, advocating for what I believe in. And when I say mental health advocate, something I truly believe is telling people that it may be not over. Maybe our tunnel is a bit too long, but I guess it's okay. I think we can all learn to live with these mental health disorders, and yeah, that's what I advocate for the most.
So, tell me about a time that you faced a ethical dilemma with a patient as an
Okay.
advocate.
When people who go through mental disorders call me, I actually have people calling me, and I have actually people writing to me. So I tell them, look, I'm not gonna advise you because I'm a patient myself. That's the truth. I don't hand out advice because I don't want to sort of share sort of advise people, because when you're having a mental disorder, you're very fragile, and your words can make or break a person. You get it? So you have to be very careful, especially when someone's sharing how they feel. I think the best thing we could all do is just listen. Nobody wants to know your perspective, nobody wants to know your advice, especially people who go through mental disorders. All they need is someone to listen and understand them. And even if you don't hand out advice, or you don't sound like the next best thing, it's not important. The reason why someone's sharing how they feel is just so that you will listen and understand. And someone's asking me, what's your opinion on God's plan in one's life?
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay. What's your opinion on God's plan in one's life? Okay.
Nice question.
Yeah, that's something I have to think though. For me, I have a very different perspective about God, about religion. uh, you know, uh, my husband is the complete opposite of me when it comes to religion, and he believes in it very much. But I actually have a very, very different perspective. I do respect and believe in all religions, but for me, uh, I'm a Catholic by birth, but I'm not someone who goes to church, and I'm not someone who prays daily. Because for me, I think the greatest religion is humanity. It's not rocket science, right? It's
Okay.
nothing else. For me, if I am able to live my life by, live my life, be a kind person, and not and make sure that I don't hurt anyone physically, emotionally, for me, that's religion, accepting every human being for who they are. If I can do that, and if I'm a better human day by day, I think that's my religion, that's my mantra. And I think that's the sort of teachings we have been given by Jesus, or whether it's Lord Buddha or any other god. It's good that people are believing in God. It's good people think that there's a plan for them. I completely respect all of that. But with my perspective, for me, you know, uh, humanity is the biggest religion.
Of course, I agree with you. So, how hard was your journey up to this level in life? You have reached from a very difficult muddy, dumb situation, and now you have come to some sort of
Now the
admired
mud is
level?
much better. I am still in a very muddy, very, as you say, I am still living with that chaos, especially now, because right now I'm actually, uh, I just got my medication changed, so I am getting used to that medication as well. But yeah, I think you asked me how I am doing now, right? After all the muddy and whatever chaotic situations I had. Well, I think nothing has changed really, Manas. I think I'm the same old me. I think I'm still chaotic in my head, but I deal with it better. I deal with my emotions better. I deal with myself better. I deal with my obsessive, racing thoughts better. Uh, but I feel that I know for about 25 to 27 years I know that I've suffered from this, and I know probably for the rest of my life I will, but the difference is that I'm okay with it. 10 years ago I was not okay with it. 10 years ago I was trying to find answers. I was trying to make sure, I was wondering why I'm going through this. Why is it I feel suicidal? Why did I attempt suicide? I had millions of questions, but the difference now is I still wake up suicidal. I still feel like I'm losing myself then and there. But the difference is I breathe through it easy. I let my thoughts come and go. And yeah, I've accepted my situation. Something everyone can try.
What's the secret behind it?
Secret. Secret is again,
Yeah.
I'll have to say that it's acceptance. I think, a lot of people, wouldn't understand this, but I think if you stop asking questions about why you feel this way and how you feel this way, and rather validate how you feel and think, it's okay, it's a part of me. So it's not a death sentence, right? Having a mental health disorder is not a death sentence. It can be a part of you and you can still lead a normal life. People need to understand
Okay.
that, because in our country, for them, a lot of people, mental health conditions are where you absolutely lose yourself, where you have to be institutionalized. That's all our people know, right? That's the truth. And when you act like this, when you talk like this, people will ask, are you faking it? Because you seem confident, you speak so well, you definitely can't be going through something. I have actually had people come and talk to me after forums and tell, are you sure you're going through depression? Because you sound so confident. I think you're faking it, this and that. But the truth is, you can be smiling, you can be laughing, you can be the most active, the most happiest person. Or depression really doesn't have a face. uh, Mental health disorders does not have a face. You can be suffering from inside and still look confident, and maybe I sound confident now, but inside my head I'm thinking, oh my god, am I saying the right thing, am I saying the right thing, am I saying the right thing? So yeah, so it doesn't have a face. What we need to just kind of realize is that any one of us can be going through this. You can be going through it right now. I can be going through it right now. So yeah, it can happen to any one of us,
These
and
words
it's
are gonna
okay.
help us a lot.
I hope, and it's okay. And one thing people need to realize is it's completely okay. And it's okay if you want to scream out and cry, just do it. If you want to express yourself the way you have all the rights to do that. Or if you wish that you don't want to talk to someone and you can deal with it yourself, that's okay too. Whatever that helps you, just do it. Just don't postpone. Just don't you know just don't doubt yourself. Whatever you feel, how bad it sounds, it's not relevant. Just speak to someone and let it all out, and you will start seeing the change instantly.
One more thing I would like to know from you is on the opposite end, just if some of our friends or relative they feel mentally stressed, as a normal person, what are the steps that we can take?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
In from the opposite end, I mean, in situations
Yeah,
when
yeah,
our
yeah,
friends or family members feel stressed, what
yeah.
are the steps that we can take as a normal attached person?
Okay,
How
what
can we deal
steps
with
that
them?
you deal with your family members or your friends who are going through certain conditions? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Okay, so let me tell you a story. I know a lot of people who don't take their own, family, their siblings or their friends out just because they are not, mentally well. Uh, there's some shame attached to it. I have actually seen this happen where everyone's ashamed to say that, my daughter or my son is having a mental health disorder, but they're so proud to announce their examination marks. So yeah, I think from families, what you need to do is first sort of accept whether it's your mother or your father or your siblings or whoever, you first need to start accepting that they have a mental health issue. It's okay. It's very normal. It's absolutely normal for anyone to actually go through this. So that's step number one. And if someone's talking to you, could be your family, could be your colleague, or could be your friend, someone's talking to you and expressing how they feel, what you should do is just listen and just try to understand. I know it's so difficult. It can be so difficult for the family as well, because because you're in that state of mind, because you can be delusional and you probably wouldn't know what's happening around you. But it's so difficult for the family as well, because I saw it with my family, how my sisters and my husband and my parents struggled through it. And with struggle, they did support me so much. So the biggest support they extended was accepted my condition. They let me speak. They let me tell whatever I felt. It's like, you shouldn't even use the word let, because it's not something you should seek permission for, right? You should be able to just share whatever you feel with your family. And a lot of kids don't want to share how they feel with their parents or their siblings, because you will be judged. They'll be laughing at you, or they'll be saying, what's your problem? You have everything. Why do you feel this way? And I know a lot of people are going through that. And it's just, people need to normalize mental health. Just like we tell our parents or our colleagues that we have a headache, I need a Panadol, someone should be able to say, I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling suicidal, please help me. So yeah, that's the biggest support. It's not about passing on positive quotes and asking people to listen to some positive music, do some yoga. It's not easy as that. Yes, yoga is good for you, music is good for you, everything is, there are so many things that are good for you. But before you actually tell people what's good for them, you need to sort of listen, understand, and you have to make sure that whoever that is going through a mental health disorder, that person is able to breathe comfortably, and just talk to that person and see what they want to do, and ask them what would help them to come out of it. And if they're not in the right state of mind to even comprehend that and tell you what they feel, only thing you can do is just listen to them. And if you feel like you can't handle it, take them to a counselor, a mental health expert, and make sure that they are in the right hands. Just don't ignore, don't avoid, don't postpone. You got to do it then and there, because if not, the minute they share something with you could be the last moment they are probably sharing anything with anyone. Because sometimes you can feel suicidal out of the blue. And I know I because I have gone through it, and because I go through it daily, I know for a fact that to feel suicidal, you do not need a reason all the time. So you have to make sure that you check up on everybody. It doesn't have to be long conversations, but just check up on your family, just see how they're doing. And even if they're not feeling well, just be around them, just listen to them. And yeah, that's the kind of support we need right now.
Let them know at least that we are there for them.
Of course, exactly. That's all they need. They just need to know that someone understands them. That is crucial, for them to know that someone understands them. And by understanding, you shouldn't say, I'm going through it too. I went through it in 2017. So, you will be okay. Look at me. I'm okay now. Not that kind of understanding, but really understanding what they're going through.
Exactly, Natali. So, how do you feel when you think of the times you attempting to kick the bucket?
How do I feel when I that's a question I can answer only at that time. A lot of the times that you're referring to suicide, right?
Yeah.
So
such a hard
a lot of so a lot of the times I attempted to suicide, I felt different each time. Sometimes there was no reason. I'm not going to tell you how And I'm not going to tell you how I did it though, how I attempted, because I don't want to be giving anybody ideas. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's a question that I can only answer at that time. But one thing I can assure you and tell you is I never wanted to die. I never wanted to leave my family, but I couldn't take the pain. I couldn't take the torture. I couldn't take how my thoughts were controlling me, how I felt like an outer force is controlling me. And it came to a point where it was so painful that I couldn't explain to anybody. I couldn't tell anybody how I felt. And I thought, okay, I can't take it anymore. I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my family. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway because I needed to see an end to it. So, like I said, anybody who is going through suicide, I don't think anybody wants to die. I don't think anybody wants to leave their loved ones. But it's only because they can't take the pain and because they don't understand what they're going through. They just want it to end. That's the only explanation. A lot of people say you're weak. When people commit suicide, a lot of people have passed comments such as, they're really weak. Why couldn't they take the pain? Why couldn't they just, do something about it? It's nothing to do with your weakness or your strength. It's only to do with, it's only to do with you not being able to comprehend what you're feeling, and it's too painful, really, to tell you the truth. The moment you decide, like the moment you are suicidal, it's probably the most painful I've ever felt.
Thank you very much, Nithali. Even though you have lost battles, you have won the war from my point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to your family and to your husband again. We have such an admiring person we could speak today. And
Thank
we
you
are
so
very
much.
thankful of having such a beautiful conversation, golden words from you. Everything will be noted.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for attending and giving your valuable time for us. Thank you very much, Nithali.
Thank you so much for having me. And I think you guys are doing such a fantastic job because you're actually taking your time off, and you're actually trying to help and sort of support people who actually need this. So like I said, please try to have these conversations in Sinhalese and Tamil as well. And when you actually post something, if you can, please try to get them translated into Sinhalese and Tamil, so you'll be able to reach a much wider audience and really help more and more people. And thank you so much for my family, my cousins, my husband. Everyone's actually watching in, and everyone else who asked me questions, and for all the beautiful comments. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope I was able to make help you in whatever way I can. My brain likes to think that I just didn't do it, but I hope it did. So thank you so much, and thank you for your time as well, Manas. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nithali. And stay tuned with us. We have some more to come. Hope you can enjoy
Of course.
more.
Of course, I'll be checking your page out daily, and maybe I'll try out all those tasks that you have set out to. It's
Thank you very
actually
much.
pretty helpful. So yeah, thank you for that as well.
Thank you. See you.
See you. Bye. Take care.
Take care.